everyone, welcome back to another Homespa Beauty podcast. It never gets old when someone replies with a yes when I ask them if they would like to chat with me on the podcast, and today is a fashion icon. It's Barbara Hulanicki. You'll know Barbara as the creator of Biba, and what's great is she's always happy to talk about it. Whenever I've heard chats, there's always something new. Hopefully when you hear her chat today, there'll also be something that you haven't heard before. But we're also going to talk about what's really interesting in Barbara's world at present, where she finds interest in creativity and pop culture, and also her new collection, Hula, which she's working with Brand Lab on, and you can actually visit in the virtual showroom. There's so much ground that we covered. Here's our chat. I hope you enjoy listening to it as much as I enjoyed chatting with Barbara. So Barbara, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. I get the impression that every day, 7 days a week, is pretty full on. Would you say that's the case? Do you keep yourself really busy?
Oh, yes. I mean, I'm very busy I never stop. I hope I'm answering the right question.
Oh, absolutely. Would you say, are you an early riser?
Oh, yes, tremendous, yes. I was traveling to London so much before the COVID, and my time got completely screwed up. So I'm up most of the night, which is terrible. And then I sort of sleep in the morning.
But if that works for you, though, that's the thing. Sometimes...
No, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Because I'm doing so much during the day, and what drives me bonkers now is the fact that because of the time changes, you see,
mm-hmm.
Because usually I'm doing something with England or like yourself, and you've got that to worry about as well as, and whether this thing is working or not.
That's so true, because I think technology must have made things so easy. I like technology to a point, and then when it gets a little bit complicated or something, a button that normally works doesn't work, that's where I finish, and I need someone to come in and help me.
Yes, I mean it's really, really you can't win, can you? Absolutely
no
win.
But at the same time, it must, when you think about even back when you first started in the industry compared to now, it must still be really novel that you can do all your work and then connect with people wherever they might be instantaneously. Yeah. Does that still blow your mind? Because it blows mine that I can say to someone anywhere in the world, will we just hop onto WhatsApp, or do you want to have a quick Skype? You couldn't do that not that long ago, but has it freed up your creativity?
I tell you, I'm working with Brand Lab, and to me that was so exciting, because luckily we did all the fittings before the COVID, but then we had to do the photography on virtually,
mm-hmm.
and I was talking to the model. No, you're bending too much. First of all, we all the makeup right,
mm-hmm.
and no, that's the wrong eye. Okay, no, get rid of that hair, and it was really quite fun.
Well,
and it looked great.
Yes, and I've actually got the Hula collection in front of me here. Brand Lab. So as far as I'm aware, they really are forward thinking. They're making it's the virtual showrooms, isn't it?
Yes. And I had to do the interior too, which was fabulous.
That's good.
But also I was working with a wonderful tech person at the other end. Up a bit, put another hat on the hat stand.
That's brilliant. So it really was properly, how can I put it? You didn't need to, you were basically almost there, apart from being physically in the room. Yeah.
In spirit. I don't see why I couldn't have been there. I could have flown there.
Oh, is it still everyone's being extremely cautious?
In what way?
And just because of the virus, is everyone just being really careful that if you don't need to be there, they'll just keep you there virtually?
Yes, because nobody wants to travel now.
Oh, that's true.
Stuck in a hotel for 10 days at the other end or something.
See, I wasn't even thinking about that part. That's true. Yeah, you'd have to do that. But looking at the collection, though, it's so synonymous with you, and I mean that as a compliment. It's modern, and yet it's got those elements that do have a nod to Biba, but in the best possible way. But again, there's nothing from Biba in previous collections that isn't still desirable, and I don't know how you've managed that. That's a rare quality, to design for a period and yet it transcends that period. Have you even surprised yourself?
No, I tell you what, we were very lucky to get the fittings right, because then we got all the shoulders, the arms, the waist, low waist, and that sort of thing correct. So we had the blueprint of that, which was fantastic, and in fact we fitted all the styles this end, and once you've got the shapes, you can go ahead. Now we've got the sort of Biba blueprint, how we worked really, and people are so amazing pattern cutters nowadays. You see, in our early days, there were just a few incredible pattern cutters who are creative and didn't have to be shown how, to be taught. Because usually if you pattern cut from measurements, you get a sort of great big hunky piece of not wood but fabric. Yeah.
Oh, well, even just looking, the collection is easy to find online. All you would have to do is search online for Hula Brand Lab or even Hula and your own name, and it comes up very easily. And then you can very easily, and you can also click on the link for the virtual showroom, which is brilliant, because if anyone hasn't seen it, it looks like all the clothes on the hangers, and then you just select and you can actually see the model walking down the little virtual catwalk. You can see how everything moves. You must be so pleased with how that's turned out.
It's terribly funny, because I feel like I'm a 8-year-old playing. Yes.
And have you already got lots of ideas for evolution of the brand and what comes next?
God. Yeah, the beginning is always, it's not difficult, but because I've been doing it for so many years.
Yeah.
But because you're working with new people, and it's to get to know the other people, and then you almost don't have to talk. It's really, really nice. I love it.
And so far, have you got any feedback from either the media or anyone that's had a little bit of a preview, how it's going? Have you had some nice...
Oh, yeah. I love it. And especially, I sent it to a few very difficult people, not media, but friends that I know will moan.
But you need that. You need some honest feedback, don't you? You need people to tell you. So you know that you can trust them, and they'll say, I love this, but, and then you think, right, here comes the but. But sometimes you do need that, don't you, so that you know. But would you say that you've got a key demographic, or do you think the good thing about your name is that it does spark an interest quite far and wide?
No, I think they always judge you on the Biba thing.
Right,
see? And excuse me, was us.
Yeah.
They expect you to lose. And in fact, what happens as time goes on, you get better.
Yes.
You can cut out all the things that are going to cause trouble.
Yeah.
And it's just a different way of working. And, there's not so much mess on your table as well.
That's so true. I think when you think back as well, because I want to talk about a lot of the things that you, even though you didn't mean it, you really did become a trailblazer. You were just there doing your thing, weren't you? And you were just, I know that you worked with your husband, and it seemed like the perfect combination, because you were able to do the creating and he was able to spot the opportunities. It just seems like a perfect partnership.
Yes, and I really because I sort of know lots of students, fashion students, and this is my big thing, is because also it was very important that at the beginning when we started that I didn't ever tread on his side and he never touched my side.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we had to learn how to do it. And, I mean, he would never interfere with the style or anything, but he might interfere with a category.
Right.
I mean, with the Biba boot, which we sold, 20,000,
Wow.
one style and lots of colors. I always remember I used to sort of like every morning I would wake up, I want boots, I need boots, because I wanted them, I personally. Oh no, you can't. We're stuck with all these left feet from the last lot of shoes, because shoes are very difficult with size things, and they cost a lot of money. No, you can't. And then in the end, he got so fed up with me. Oh, okay, well, we'll do a sample. We'll do 100 sample sort of lot in lots of colors. Well, they sold out in about 2 hours.
Wow.
And then he said, Barbara, I'm never going to interfere with you. I'll never go into your other sort of level of your thinking where you're picking up things from the customers in the shop, because you get very psychic with a lot of people, even if they're different people that come in. It's amazing. It's very exciting. And I even test myself now, although I'm not in a shop. I do a lot of research. I used to do a lot of research when there were stores and so on.
That's true.
And I would say, this isn't going to work. This is great. And I go to see whether my brain was working correctly. And sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. Because what I find I have to do, I have to say, okay, today you're allowed 2 hours to think about yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not thinking about anybody else. And another day I would go in and I'm not allowed to think about myself, only for what other people would think or would like to buy. Would they buy this? It's really interesting now.
That's a really good way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Do you think that, because a lot of the time I trained in the makeup side of things, so one of the things that I found fascinating, because obviously when you work in makeup, you're going to work in fashion too, because the two go hand in hand if you're booked for a shoot. And what I found fascinating was that sometimes with training, there's more training courses now. I think there used to be an element of people working in the industry who just had a natural ability. They were very artistic. But now I think a lot of the time they expect you to have gone through the formal qualifications route.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel that you can't really train that creative skill into someone. You can only really nurture it. And you must think, from what you're telling me, that's a very instinctive way that you're developing for your customer. Whereas it feels sometimes, not all of the time, but it feels sometimes today they don't want you to rely on instinct. They want you to rely on formulas. This is how we work out our demographic. This is how we do this. And it's very much follow these rules.
Oh, no, that's the trouble. And you probably, the person that's built these rules is probably a man who hasn't got a clue.
Or you're saying that when I was at school, in our science class, if people didn't take chemistry, the chemistry teacher used to shout at us and say, "This country is going to be run by accountants."
He was right.
I think he's right. He used to crack up. He was so angry that people weren't taking enough science classes, and he said, "This country's just going to be run by accountants." And I think maybe now.
Especially in fashion and cosmetics. Golly.
That's true. And that leads very nicely on to the cosmetics, because I was inspired and I still am inspired by what you did. You were breaking the mold when people were saying these colours won't sell, these colours are not interesting. you really did. Did you know that you wanted to create different colours in your Biba cosmetics that just weren't easy to purchase, or were you taking a gamble?
No, I was never gambling.
So you knew.
We had cosmetics that followed the clothes. And I knew what my whole idea of sale, the catalogues we did, because I wanted to show girls who were not experienced, so 15, 16, of how they should wear the clothes and how the makeup should go. You know, the whole picture. It was as a whole picture. And then it was all a natural, you know. I told you the story about when we went and did our first cosmetic.
Oh, it's a good
cosmetic. Yes, we went to this, Del and I, two of us, I guess we were very young too. Anyway, we suddenly went into this huge office where there were people who produced for Revlon, huge company, and all they did was coral pink lipstick. And I thought, how are we going to convince them? But as we were the customer and we were buying, I thought, well, okay, I'm going to show them the color I want, which was a piece of milk chocolate. Can you imagine sort of 8 businessmen, accountant people?
That's it. And all they'd been used to at that point was pinks and reds.
They're raised, and there was sun. And they thought I was, sending them up.
That's funny. But then
they said, no, you can't. And I said, but I am buying. Excuse me. I mean, most of the men there could have been your dad or something.
Yeah.
Hello. And then they said, because I said we were going to walk out. So one of them says, okay, well, we'll send it round to the lab, which was next door. And they sent the piece of chocolate round the lab, and suddenly the girls that do all the mixing and so on come jumping into this room. Wow, we think this is great.
See,
it was such a victory for me.
See, I love that. And isn't that just, you must have found that so frequently that you had a creative idea and you found that you had to break through a door and justify it, and all the time you must have been thinking, told you so.
Yeah, but it was in those days, you see, because as I said, they were selling lots of coral pink lipstick. Hello, why move off it?
Yeah, that's true. But the colours that you came up with, though, they were always like rich, and they were always, even when someone, plums and really beautiful
rust.
Yeah, exactly. And all these colours that people, I could understand if you weren't guiding them along, they probably would have been, not everyone, but some people would have been quite frightened. How am I going to use this colour? Oh,
no, the young ones wouldn't have been frightened.
Or were they quite happy just to...
No, they were absolute, they were so anti all the sort of old-fashioned ideas that they were so happy to test things. Also, we did allow them to test things at the, on the counter. So they could play. I mean, they used to come in the morning, unmade up, and make themselves up and go to the office.
That's brilliant. And you were quite happy to do that? Was that a badge of honour? Yeah. I think that's great. See, the freedom, that's it, the freedom and the flexibility. I think we always live in creative times. I don't believe that, sometimes people will say, oh, it's not like it used to be. I think there's always creativity. But I do think we're going through a phase at the moment with makeup where the younger teenagers and the 20-somethings, not all of them, but there's a movement in social media where they're all trying to look like each other. And I actually love it when the individuality is more fashionable, and I love it when people are doing their own thing. So I'm hoping that we move into another cycle of that soon, where you can see somebody and you think that's their unique look and that's that other person's unique look. At the moment, it feels as if everyone's trying to copy one look.
No, but you see that what the beauty of this COVID thing is, they've been stuck at home, and they've probably had time to practice stuff and find that they're really quite good at it themselves on their own face.
Yeah,
They may be very good on somebody else's face, but on their own. And I think there's going to be amazing creative time when all the doors open to the outside world, because people would have got their own ideas going and didn't have to copy other people.
That's true. Be inspired by someone, but again, you find your twist on it. Would you love to do cosmetics again? Because you actually...
yes.
What was the award that you won?
CEW.
Yes. And that was your contribution to the industry, wasn't it?
Well, yes. I think the contribution was stuff to sell in the shops.
Well, that's it. Lifetime achievement, that was it.
All over America and tons of stores and so on.
And that's when we think about the lifetime achievement as well, being such a fan, I am aware of what you've done as well for inclusivity, because there are the palest of girls down to the sort of rich, darker skin tones, and you really did make sure that everyone was catered for.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yes, definitely. Oh, I must tell you a story one day, because we had a really, we worked with Fiorucci. He sort of we did our cosmetics, and we had a showroom in Milan. And nice. I was feeling like we did lipstick, eyeshadow, all matching, as well as the clothes, all bright green, all bright blue, all bright purple, but lipstick and everything.
Wow.
We made up. There was 3 girls from the shop that, I think it was Kim, Ali, and somebody else, and we went to Milan, and the girls got themselves absolutely made up. I never forget. We us trying to get a taxi, and the taxi driver, because also they were wearing the clothes, which were exactly the same colour.
Amazing.
The guys were saying, "Gracias a Dios, what is going on?"
And they're fully toned in. Everything.
Yeah, it's so funny.
But again, you must have known exactly what you were doing, because sometimes I can tell when I go into a department store, probably more so a chemist or a drugstore, and you can see when they've created colours and they're just doing it to see what sticks. But you wouldn't have done that. You would have known exactly why you're doing that. Oh yeah, definitely, because it came from fashion.
Yeah, came from really. I'm not talking about the products, for looking after your skin and skin colours. I'm talking about the paint colours and the eyelashes. Yeah. Hello.
Having fun with that. Well,
bright green lashes and bright blue lashes.
That's it. You've got to have a bit of fun with it. And the eyelashes, again, that leads on to that story that we just heard on the podcast, Alec Baldwin's podcast, Malcolm McDowell getting ready for Clockwork Orange. And what was it you found out? Because this was fantastic.
Yeah, that he... this is my son sent that to me, that he rushed off and bought the Biba eyelashes for that big photograph that Clockwork Orange is always shown in, because we were the only ones that were doing spider lashes, and they all had sort of weird names, like, some looked like teddy bears, and they were upper lashes and lower lashes, and they sold like mad. Yeah,
and that's
people love them.
You must be finding out still to this day. There must be either people contact you on social media, or it might even be I don't know if you're having a chat with somebody, and you'll be discovering all these stories constantly about people that have been connected, not even just with Biba, but all the subsequent projects and brands that you've been involved with.
Yeah.
Do you find on a weekly, if not daily basis, somebody's got something to tell you, a story to share?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, in England, when I go here, it's not so much because it's the sort of Latin, and they're not quite sure where you come from in any way. They are. Somebody asked me the other day, was I an Englander? Hello. So I said, well, not quite.
That's it. But then I think I might have said to you before that when you're from Scotland, when you're abroad, you're always from England. But that doesn't bother me. That they'll say Scotland's in England, isn't it? And there are some Scottish people that are like, it is not. But that's the thing, though. Would you say, even though you weren't born in England, do you really feel that affinity? Does that never go away because of everything that happened here?
Yes, I mean, my sort of part of my life was very stunning at the age of 12. Suddenly not to go to England where I thought my English was really good, but until I got to England and I didn't understand anything. So I had to sit in school for like 6 months, and I just kept smiling, and I thought if I keep smiling, they won't ask me any questions, and they will assume I know what they're talking about. But I had no clue what was going on. It was really... because especially in those days, you didn't have foreigners. Wow, to be a foreigner, golly.
I know. And when you think it, in the grand scheme of things, that's not that long ago. It's amazing to think how it really is. I think, the multicultural element of the world now, the fashion world, everything, it's so exciting. It is so exciting.
Yeah.
And even now, I know you've been in Miami for quite a while now. Do you still find that there's new discoveries and new inspirations, and just you might see something with different eyes, or you might notice some building that you've not really taken much interest in? Do you find that you can actually sometimes just be in a different zone in your head, and you just think, actually, I've never really paid much attention to that. That's worth investigating.
Extraordinary. But you see, you have so many countries here.
Yeah.
People who've been here for not generations, but one generation anyway, that you're talking to completely different mindsets. You have no idea how easy it is in the UK that you're all talking to one people. Okay, you're different up in Scotland, different in Wales, and so on. But you've all experienced the same thing, and you don't have to explain everything every time. I mean, golly, the funniest thing was when Prince William got married to a commoner.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
I was being asked, what is a commoner? Wherever I went. I said, well, it's like you and me.
That's
We're
it.
Commoners.
It's us lot.
That means you're not a blue blood.
That's it. That's us lot. And I suppose this is a very UK thing. It might also be different parts of the world that have got a royal family. There's something about the UK where certain people, if they're doing their family tree, they get so excited. Yes. They get so excited if there's a chance that they might be related to royalty.
Yes, of course, it's fantastic. Oh, I love them. They're such a stabilizer to everything.
Well,
I think it's amazing,
isn't it? And you've got your OBE. So was that for services to fashion?
That was, well, I think it was, I'm not sure, because I did so many things. Oh, it was for Biba, I guess.
Oh, well, that
Yeah,
would make
yeah,
sense. And
yeah.
also your contribution, I would guess, to the entire industry, the creative industries.
I'm sorry?
I would,
Yes,
yeah, I
yes.
think the
And
creative industries. Do you?
I was given it by Prince Charles, and he was so amazing.
Oh,
He was
that's what I
so
was going.
funny.
I was going to ask
Uh,
that.
the whole, because everybody that came was very, very nervous, and there were all these ladies wearing all these wonderful sort of butterflies on their heads and lots of sort of tulle hats and funny things. And I had put on a frock coat and boots, and somebody said to me, "You look like you look like." Oh, what's the character? And I can't remember now. And anyway,
It'll come
so
back. Do you know if that comes back? Say because I'll be in the middle of talking and it'll come back. So as soon as you remember.
you're right. Yes, because it went away.
But when you met him, was it as? I imagine it would be really exciting.
Oh God, yes, and you because you're nervous as well.
Yeah.
Well, in any case, they tell you, then they say to you, then when you get in front of him, you either curtsy or you bow. And I thought, well, I don't know, I can't curtsy in this frock coat. So I'm curtsying and bowing and curtsying and bowing, and he says, "Come on, Barbara, get on with it."
That's great.
We were laughing. The whole place was just crying, honestly.
That's brilliant. And that must have really helped. Just if anyone did feel a bit nervous, that must have just
Oh,
completely
yes.
changed, just settled everyone down.
Just that incredible sense of humour that that is in the island, on
See,
the island.
that is,
It's
I must admit,
amazing.
that would be, I'm guessing, a really intense day from start to finish, but for the best
Yeah,
reasons.
yeah.
And do you remember what you did after it? Because whenever I see anyone on TV talking about it, they say that you're limited to who you can take, but after it, you can obviously have a little celebration or a little meal or something nice.
What, in the palace?
Or I think if you got to leave the palace, if you only got so
Oh,
long,
you
but
leave.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
you can go and do what you like.
Well, as you go down the stairs into the big sort of place where all the cars drive up, there are all these people that are selling the photographs they've taken of you. So
Oh,
everybody's queuing, all these photographers for their picture. So it's like going to the races or something, you know?
you don't think about that, but I suppose it is.
No.
It's good business for the photographers.
Oh, yes, they love it. And you have to sign things and blah, blah, blah. No, it was very exciting to have all the bits, you know. I know it was the most wonderful, wonderful, funniest British, English, Ireland, whatever. Oh, God, it was incredible.
Just a good memory.
Yeah,
All you needed was afternoon tea after it, and that would have been the most English British day you could have possibly had.
yeah. No, I think we went over to Fortnum and
Oh,
Mason. Yes, which is so British, isn't it?
that would be
Hello.
so nice. And this is completely a what if question, but if Biba had still have gone on in the big Biba
Yeah.
store, can you imagine what the restaurant would have evolved into, what the roof garden would have evolved into? Can you
Yeah.
imagine? I just have visions
But,
of all these people after big major events coming in.
yeah. Absolutely. Yes, and we had amazing areas for art shows, and we were going to do a cinema too, but we went through all the project with a company that told us how to do it, how to set it up. And then we found at that time there weren't enough sort of films coming out, because we would have had to have a film every 2 days or something.
Right.
There weren't enough art films or, films that weren't big from the big companies to keep the thing going.
Oh, that would have been fantastic, isn't
Yeah.
it? Even just hearing about what could have been is still...
Yeah.
It's so exciting to hear. You really, that's the thing I think is so inspiring about you, is that even the things that you investigated but didn't quite work out for one reason or another, they're still really like, you think, wow, that's just so forward thinking for that time. I think it's still forward thinking for now. If someone could do that now.
Yeah. I mean, for instance, Vitold was about 6-ish. This is my son, and he was into Marvel comics. Maybe he was older. So we thought, okay, we'll call Seth Stand, the design, the artist who did it, and he came down, and we said we would love to do a whole room, because we had space in the back for Marvel. And he said, oh God, that's fantastic. I can't wait. Can you imagine trying to do that today? You'd have to do it with thousands of agents.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just bang. Yes, of course. I'd love to do it.
You're so true. There's always been the hoops to jump through, but it seems as if between you both, you sort of said, right, how can we do this? Did a lot of the time, do you think it's just because you actually asked? You just came out and asked people, and a lot of times people strategize, but they don't ask.
Yes, because when we were doing the catalogues, for instance, my big thing was to work with these really big photographers because I was a fashion illustrator. I was always in with the magazines and so on, and then I thought, oh God, I've got to have Helmut Newton.
Oh yeah,
he will never,
yes.
Because we had Sarah Moon for years and.
Beautiful.
And one of my friends, who used to be one of the first Biba girls, this is by the time we were in the big store, I said to her, oh, Helmut, she said, Barbara, I'll ask him. And yes, of course. And then he came back, yes, of course, I would love to.
Wow.
Come over there. Just like that.
And that was literally just, if you can get in contact, just ask.
Yes. No, Liz asked him, and he said, yes, I'd love to.
That's amazing.
I mean, sort of big people like that love doing fun things. They don't want to be doing boring stuff.
Oh, and talking about fun things too, I know that they don't go completely hand in hand, but I love so much of the pop culture of the early 70s with your glam rock, and I know some of it is completely unrelated, but I do always think of people like Mark Bolan, and I have heard that he did so he did shop with you, so that's because whenever I used to see him in some, I'm saying I used to see him as if I knew him personally, I would see on TV little jackets and I think that they do look very Biba, so quite a lot of the time, was it Biba?
Yeah, it was definitely the sequin jackets. Yes, absolutely. Because our shapes were, because the boys were very skinny then.
Yeah.
They weren't all muscle and so on, and they a lot of rock stars. Oh my gosh, who was the other lot from New York?
Oh, is it the New York Dolls?
Yes.
Yeah, because they've got quite a connection, don't they?
Yeah, one of them is wearing the girl's spotty shirt in all the photographs that they have got done, for their press.
Yeah, I think I saw that, and that's what I love about that. Again, the creativity. If it looked good, wear it. And did a lot of them come in and do? Nowadays it's send your personal shopper in, send your stylist in. Did a lot of them just come in?
Oh, no.
Yeah, they just did their own thing?
Oh, God, yes. Yeah, because we were always very careful that we never, let anybody know if there was somebody really very famous. And, I mean, there was a huge men's department, and some famous people would come in, and they were very disappointed that we didn't let the press know about them, like Diana Dawn.
So she wanted.
Diana Dawes came in, and she was all ready to be photographed and filmed, and nobody wanted to know.
Oh, that's
It was so funny.
She was so disappointed.
Terribly, yeah. I mean, it was because I used to have to in the first two shops, because we sort of every time we grew so much, every 2 years we would move to bigger premises. I used to have to go into the shop because my office was across the road, this design studio, and I was like, "Who's been in? Tell me who's been in," because they were so blasé about everybody. "Oh, I don't know. Mia Farrow's been in. Barbara Streisand came in, and she's pregnant, and we thought maybe she'd like to go in a private, bathroom or something. No, she went straight in the communal changing room, and it was so terrific. It was really great."
Oh, that's great. Do you feel as if you just created this atmosphere where people...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they definitely,
Yes.
they knew. I'm guessing you would have got people that wanted to travel there. Like every Saturday must have been absolute chaos.
To hang out, because the idea was, even from the first shop, Fitz and I, there's one time that we were at loggerheads, is if we were going to Paris or Italy, when we had to go around the shops and things, he couldn't stand that. And then, so I said, right, we're going to have huge, lovely sofas, so they can sit, the men can sit there, read, or look at the girls, or whatever. And we always had that sort of loungy sort of feel about it.
Yeah.
So you could hang out. Yeah.
There's no question that people then took that idea and evolved it, because to this day you can tell when you're in certain department stores that they've applied that theory. You must know yourself when you go in certain places and you think, yep, my idea is still rolling out. They're still taking that, make it comfortable for the person that's not doing the shopping.
But really, when they do it, they don't do it very well, because you don't know whether it's for sale or whether you're on it.
So do you think they probably would sell you it then if they could just...
Yeah. The whole idea of Biba was that at that time, I just love retail. I love shops. And the whole idea was that you weren't allowed to go into a shop without the assistant bothering you, that you couldn't even go up to the rail and have a look at the... And the whole idea of Biba was that you could spend 2 hours there looking at one dress if you wanted to. Do you know what I mean? That nobody bothered with your idea of what you might look like in it.
See, that is a breath of fresh air, because that does, as you say, that goes against what so many shops train their staff to do, which is...
Oh, yes, bad now, isn't it?
It can be...
yeah.
Get a hold of the customer quickly, and it's a good thing to let them know that you're there to help them. But I think we've all experienced when you feel as if you're being followed.
Yeah.
It's not very comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, just to let it, percolate, your brain percolate, and get excited.
Yeah.
Because you're sort of immediate barrier with the girl, because they used to be like that, that they made their money on what they sold, which,
Yeah.
we do that. Yeah.
That's true. And I think we are going through, again, just a little bit of an evolution. The British high streets are definitely having to change, even before this last crazy year. The way that people are shopping is changing, which I think, again, it's great why you're doing the brand labs collaboration because I think that's needed. I don't think people always want to just look at a screen and see a picture. I think the virtual showroom is really clever.
Yeah.
But do you also think that the department store will have its time again? Because a lot of people are they're insinuating that it's finished as we know it, but do you think it might have its time?
Yeah, retail has got to come back. It will, because people need that break of, even when there are a few shops in Miami that's still open, you get such a high when you've been in a shop, even if you don't buy. Do you know what I mean? It's so exciting, the energy in a shop. And my goodness me. I mean, what's so exciting now is this huge thing for the sneaker. Well, this is Miami. Sneakers. I mean, I was with a friend who wanted to buy some sneakers the other day, and it was incredible. I mean, when you think there's like 1,000 sneakers just to see, for you to look at in a store.
Yeah,
and it's unisex too, which is terrific.
That's true. You are right though.
Yeah.
It's great. I mean, I'm going to bring you back down to UK trainers. Trainers over here.
Oh, trainers.
That's it.
Exactly.
But do you know what though? I think more people are calling them sneakers over here. But if I called them sneakers around my friends and family, they'd give me a talking to and say, "Oi, it's trainers."
Sorry.
But you're right. The revolution is, I would say,
so
maybe.
exciting.
Yeah, and in addition to that, is that an area again you would possibly look at? Because
yes.
yeah, because there's you see the collaborations with
Yeah.
I'll say trainers, but I mean sneakers. When you see the designers collaborating too, and you think it's really clever. So is that something that you would definitely be open to doing?
Yeah. I don't think there are enough trainers sneakers that are designed for girls.
I get what you mean. Sometimes, I mean, it used to also be that classic thing where you had the pink version. You had your pink or your lilac.
Yeah, no, it's not the colour; it's the shape.
Definitely the shape.
They've got these funny backs. The guys like big. It's for balance. Huge back on the heel. It sort of extends. I want to get rid of that because I've got big feet, and the whole thing is very You've got to do very bouncy stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not heavy, because when they're too heavy, I mean, they must be a nightmare to wear all day. It's really interesting. I think it's so lovely when it's worn with fluffy clothes, with sort of evening clothes and things. I mean, it's such a contrast. It's fabulous.
It's so interesting though. I hadn't really thought about the shape, but as you were saying that, I was thinking about it, and you're right. There's no real difference. I think that would be interesting then if you could do something with that.
Yeah, and also I'm keep thinking now. It's time people will come off the girls, women will come off the sneakers. They've got to go on to something else. And I'm just thinking very hard how it's going to evolve. Because I remember the platforms before the before the trainer, got so heavy and high that people couldn't walk in them. They would just stand still.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, they broke their ankles.
Yeah, you saw some crackers, didn't you, when you would see them, as you say, getting bigger and bigger, and people were just stomping along. They couldn't walk. They just had to stomp.
It's a horrible walk as well, and they've been used to lovely, spongy, bouncy things now for so long. How will they... It's really interesting. How will they sort of want to go a bit more feminine? I don't think stilettos will ever... Well, they do for certain type of ladies for lunch.
Yeah, there's definitely... You still see stilettos. Ballet pumps, they still seem to be... They're always around in some shape or form.
Yeah.
But you wonder, as you say, you might have to take control of the evolution then. That might be
Yes. Yeah.
the next big
I'm
thing.
thinking very hard because I think there's so many fabulous things are going to happen when all this COVID is over, when people have decided to behave themselves and wear their masks, not like in Miami, nobody wears a mask.
Oh, but is there distance
But,
though? Is that how they can get away with it? Can they say that they're keeping their distance?
well, nobody asks them.
Oh, just go about your business. That's it.
Yes, and all the kids come down here for a good time. They've been, shut up in places,
Yeah.
and they go bonkers. They're like,
Well,
it's like a playground.
because that's the thing. Even though, again, the UK is, as you say, it's tiny in comparison. It's a little island.
Yeah,
A lot of the conversation around the last year has been how challenging it has been to not even be able to really communicate, get together with friends. Because they were saying even in the last big war, they would still,
yeah,
you could still go to the cinema, you could still go to the
yeah.
theatre, you could
They used
still,
to have dances. Yeah,
yeah,
big
and
dances.
obviously they would have you would have to
Yeah,
be careful, and if the sirens went, you had to
yeah.
move, but you could
You're right.
still get on with your life. And they're saying that
Yeah,
no one's really taking into account the fact that this
yeah.
time, because of what it
The,
is, you can.
the only thing during the war was there was no food.
Well, that's, oh, and do you know, it's funny you say that because there's a television channel over here. It's excellent. It's called Talking Pictures, and it's a family that
Yeah,
run it. It's a father and daughter, and I think the daughter's husband.
right.
And what they've done is they've made this very popular cable channel, and it's all vintage programs. It's like little clips from maybe from, I'd say, the 20s or 30s onwards, rare films. And there's quite
Yeah.
a lot of little I think they must have been in the cinema at the time, little short informative films from during the war.
Oh yes, they did. Yes, because they had special cinemas that were just news theatres
Just
and
giving you
so
the
on.
news.
Yeah,
And one of
yeah,
them, I don't know if you remember, it was a comedian, Tommy Trindle, and
yeah,
he is doing, they show it every so often, and it's
yeah,
during the war, and there's this restaurant that's opened, and it's basically come in and get your lunch or your dinner for hardly
yeah,
anything, and the choices,
yeah.
honestly, it was like you can have corned beef and cabbage. Or
And
you,
no salt.
that's it. Or you can have, they didn't even say what meat, they were like, or you can have some meat and potatoes.
Yes, exactly. Absolutely.
And you're watching it and you're
Oh
thinking,
dear.
oh, who wants to go to that
Meat.
restaurant?
No, and I know when we first opened our first shop, all the restaurants just sold overcooked spaghetti,
You'd be like, oh,
like
lovely.
plain spaghetti with horrible red sauce.
Oh, yeah. And you'd be thinking, is that even seen a tomato? I'm not sure.
No, absolutely.
And
But I mean, we couldn't believe when we came from Palestine, because we were in Palestine in 1948, that what people ate in England was believable. It was one egg a week,
that's it.
unbelievable, and 4 ounces of chocolate. Have you ever seen 4 ounces of chocolate?
Oh, it's minuscule, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah,
it's that it isn't funny, but it does make me laugh that in our
yeah,
family, I had a great aunt who didn't
yeah,
speak to another great aunt, and I thought they were both so lovely individually. They were both the loveliest ladies, and I did
yeah.
say once to one of my aunts, I was like, why don't they talk? And this was maybe like in the 1980s. She said because your auntie didn't tell the other one that there was black market butter down the shop. So she missed out, and she says to this day she knows she could have told her and she chose not to. So they didn't speak for like 40 years because of a bit of black market butter back in the war.
That's
But
funny.
but the thing is though, like you say, that sort of does lead on to why I think everyone absolutely loved what you were doing, because even though it was decades after that trauma, and now
Yeah,
the last
yeah,
year the last year has been a trauma for lots of people in lots of different ways. I think you were bringing a lot of fun and a lot of colour into
yeah.
the world of shopping that just hadn't been there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I tell you, this thing that happened because we only did one size and it was tiny and skinny, and I remember on the zebra crossing across from our second shop, I suddenly see these girls with hips and boobs, and I was thinking, and thighs. Jesus Christ, what's going on? And it was the pill.
Ah, so their hormones are all getting...
Yeah,
Before
yeah,
that, they
you see,
would have been just
yeah,
basically sort of, as you say,
yeah,
you didn't have all the food you could eat. That just wasn't a thing.
yeah,
You just didn't get your fast food. I suppose lunch would have been just a little tiny sandwich.
yeah. But it was the hormones and things were
Yeah, the
working.
hormones just and
Yeah.
ever... did you have to steadily evolve what you did, or did it take quite a bit of
Well,
time?
I was like, I went home and I cried
Oh,
because I thought that was the end of our business.
oh no. Hormones to blame.
When you go now and you see everybody's boobs hanging out and
Well,
bums hanging out.
and nowadays people are paying a fortune to get them made bigger.
I know, it's horrible things, and oh
Isn't it
God,
funny how everything goes round in cycles?
mad,
Oh,
mad.
but do you know what? Nothing has stopped you. That's whatever happens, you've evolved from so many different ideas. Like, we haven't even
Yeah,
touched on the interiors and the wallpapers and everything.
oh
Do you
no, no.
do you honestly believe that there's always an area that you can reinvent what you did, or even go into it brand new?
No, well, because I find I watch the generations,
Right.
you see. The generation is only, whatever they say, generation is six years. And you suddenly have a new generation. And that's happening now, isn't it? I mean, I completely think completely differently. And that's why I find that I'm really interested in what's going to happen now. Because I don't understand how it's going to evolve
I think you're
with
right,
this.
though. I think you were right
Yeah,
earlier when you said about
yeah,
the burst of creativity when everyone's allowed out.
yeah. I mean, it's really, um, they live in a sort of, I mean, I had a three-year-old here, and he had this little iPad, and he was playing with that. And then I bought some of these wonderful things that were made out in China, little animals, like 3 or 4 little animals, and I gave them to him, and he looked at them, and he didn't know what to do with them. He'd never seen a toy.
Oh, don't think
It's
about that.
really weird,
You
absolutely weird.
you really... I never gave that a thought. So that's maybe,
Yeah,
again, we
right.
might be moving into
Yeah.
pure
No, but
technology.
that's why, excuse me, Gucci and people like that, there was at one stage, they were doing all these styles that looked like toys, little bags and things,
Uh-huh.
and still do. And then it sort of clicked. This is what they're doing, is they're replacing the toy thing,
Do you know what?
for another generation.
You just don't think about that. I find that fascinating.
Yeah,
And again, your creative side will be looking at that, and you'll be thinking,
yeah,
I think that really is food
yeah.
for thought, isn't it? Where it's going. That is exciting. It's also frightening, but I
Parents,
think it's frightening for me because you
yeah,
think, wow, that really is moving so far away from what I'm familiar with. But would you
yeah.
advise, do you advise just embrace it and see where it goes?
Yes, you have to really watch very carefully how it develops, because they suddenly a generation suddenly finds something new. Maybe they'll suddenly find toys. Hello,
That's true.
that's why Toys R Us closed, wasn't it? There was a huge
Yeah.
toy company here suddenly overnight. And
You're
there's
absolutely
Gucci
right.
making teddy bears with handles.
Do you know what? You're right. That's why it's so much fun talking to you, because you've got the creative thinking, and it's something that it plants the seed in my head, and then I'll spend the day, I'll be like, oh, actually, I never thought about
Yeah,
that. And then you
yeah,
start having a little think, and you
yeah,
join the dots. Well,
yes.
I have enjoyed our chat so much.
Oh, me too.
Oh, it's been so much fun. And just to wrap up again, if anyone didn't catch it at the beginning, your hula collection with Brand Labs, is it a case of, would you say, if they just search for it online, they'll be able to find everything they need to know? Because it was easy for me. I just put it into Google and I found it no problem. So would you
Fantastic.
advise that? Just have a
Well,
look and then see wherever.
the brand app people made it easy for people.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, they're wonderful. Such fun.
Well, even if it is only a case to begin with of looking at the virtual showroom, it's a great place to start. And then the problem will be deciding
Yeah,
deciding what
yeah,
you want. You'll have to
yeah.
narrow it down what you want.
Yay.
Oh, well, Barbara, thank you so much. And I hope this is the first of many chats.
Oh, yes, I'd love. I have to go now and develop. I mean, go and see what's going on the seafront and so
Yeah,
on.
and get those
My God.
I'll get into trouble for not saying trainers, but get started on those sneakers.
Yes.
Oh, Barbara, thank you so much.
Fantastic. Lovely to talk to you.
Lovely. See you
Elaine,
soon.
that's fun.
Oh, I could chat to Barbara all day. She is so easy to speak to. And I think it's rare that someone is so willing to chat about a time in history where we might have so many questions or memories or ideas, and she just never seems to tire of it. But likewise, Barbara's always working on new and current creative projects, and she's got the grace to allow us to flip between the two and allow us to just get to know her a bit better. So thank you so much, Barbara, for your time. Remember, you can check out the Hula collection with Brand Labs. Just Google it, it's very easy to find. And if you would like us to chat again, and there's a particular area that you might find specifically interesting, maybe there's more of a certain decade, there's more about design elements, maybe the makeup side of things, the pop culture side, the actual creating of the Big Biba shop, let me know, because again, Barbara's very kindly said that if you'd like to hear more, we could possibly do future podcasts. Isn't that so kind? So I enjoyed it. It was absolutely fantastic. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day, and I'll see you again soon.